So here's our back. So the back of the leaf is always lighter. That means this blade has to be much lighter than the one for the front of the leaf. And we may find after we do this back of the leaf that this whole thing may have to be done darker, in which case we'll have to put a whole layer of value over the whole top of everything that we've done. But let's see how that works out. Here we're going to again leave the veins light, just the way we did on the front of the leaf. And now we're going to have our shadows in different areas. The shadow is on this side of the leaf. There's also much stronger shadows along the veination because the veins, the secondary and the tertiary veins, are much more raised on the underside of the leaf. So I'll start with a 4H pencil to do the blade. I filled in the entire blade of the leaf with a number 4H pencil so that I can keep it very light initially. And now I'm ready to put in some of the shadows that occur. Now, if we were to look at this photograph, you'll notice that the veination on the back of the leaf is very distinct. So we will have much more detailed and stronger shadow relationships between the veins and the blade. You can see how dark it is along here, and you can see how dark it is along each of these secondary veins. Obviously, this is a photograph and it's much darker than it might be, so I'm going to keep my drawing light at this point and really emphasize all the shadows. I am still working with a 4H pencil, and I'm going to put in this main shadow all along the midrib, and at the same time making sure that I keep these secondary veins very light so that I can go back in later and give them even more value as this rendering progresses. The secondary veins are a little wider than they need to be, but this gives me the opportunity to go in and make an adjustment and thin them out as I am working on the shadow aspect of this leaf. Again, I am ignoring the tertiary veins, which are really quite small, so those will be left to last once I have these main shadows in that define the actual structure of this leaf. The shadows transition very quickly. There's not a lot of long gradation on the back side of these leaves. They are dark and then they very quickly lighten up to blend into the blade. I have filled in some of the shadows for the underside of the leaf, but we're still working on getting all of these shadows created for each of these secondary veins. If we look at our photo again, you can see that there's a lot more shadow on this side, and the shadow on this side is quite subtle, so that will not have quite as much emphasis as on this right side. I've started to fill in these tertiary veins. Look at them carefully if you are doing a leaf that has this many, and don't make them all uniform. Some of them should be a little lighter, some of them should be a little darker, and the ones that are darker are going to be an area where you're going to add a little bit more shading along the secondary veins. So as you're doing this, change the weight of your pencil and vary the way that it looks, and it'll be much more interesting and more realistic as you draw these. So I finished putting in all of the tertiary veins, and now I'm just going to go back in and I'm going to lightly add more value in certain areas so that this takes on more dimension. I am working with a photograph in black and white to help me see where those areas manifest themselves. But most of the darkness, whatever shadows, are really on this right-hand side because it is the farthest from the light source, and so will have more value. Finish up adding value to those areas that need it, and then this project will be done.